Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
The church was filled with whispers and rustling silk as I stood at the altar waiting. My heart raced like a caged bird, fluttering against my ribcage. It was my wedding day, a day I had dreamt of since I was a little girl, dressed in my mother's old veil, practicing my vows to an audience of stuffed animals. But as I glanced toward the stained glass windows, the colors seemed muted, shadows creeping in like unwelcome guests. Fraser stood at the front, his handsome face set in a mask of indecision, his deep blue eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. Anxiety twisted in my stomach. Was he nervous or was something wrong? The organ began to play and I took a deep breath, trying to silence the voices in my head. "Selena, are you sure you want to go through with this?" My best friend Claire whispered, her brow furrowed with concern. "What do you mean?" I replied, forcing a smile. "It's my dream. Fraser loves me. I know. But he seems," she started, but I cut her off, unwilling to entertain her doubts. "He's just nervous, Claire. This is a big step," I insisted, though doubt crept into my voice. I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on my shoulders, but I brushed it aside, focusing on the moment. I had to trust that Fraser was as committed as I was. As I stepped forward, I caught a glimpse of my parents in the front row. My mother's smile was wide, while my father looked proud. Their approval was a lifeline I desperately clung to. But then, just as I took my first step toward the altar, Fraser's expression changed. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face, and my heart sank. "Fraser, what's wrong?" I asked as he took a deep breath, the tension in the air thickening. He looked down, his hands clenching into fists. "Selena, I can't do this," he said, voice barely above a whisper. A hush fell over the congregation. My heart plummeted, crashing like glass against the stone floor. "What do you mean?" "We're getting married. I need to focus on my business," he said, his gaze finally meeting mine. But the warmth I had always seen in those eyes was gone, replaced by a cold distance. "You're kidding, right?" I laughed nervously, but the sound felt hollow. "Fraser, we talked about this. You're throwing everything away." "I'm not ready for this. I have too much on my plate," he replied, his voice firm yet devoid of compassion. The murmur of shock rippled through the guests. I stood frozen, the world around me blurring as I grasped for words that wouldn't come. "You can't just leave me here." "Not now, not after everything." But he stepped back, shaking his head. "I'm sorry, Selena. I just can't." In that moment, the dream I had held so dear crumbled like sand slipping through my fingers. I turned, searching for Claire, but her face was a mixture of sympathy and horror. I felt the tears brimming in my eyes, threatening to spill over. As I fled the church, my breath came in ragged gasps. Outside, the sun was bright, blinding, but it felt like the end of my world. I sank to the ground, my hands trembling, and whispered to myself, "How could he do this to me?" The sound of laughter and celebration echoed behind me, but it felt like a cruel joke. I was left alone, abandoned on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. A voice called out from behind me, "Selena, wait." It was Claire, rushing toward me. "I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk?" "No." I snapped, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. "I just want to be alone." As she stepped back, I could see the concern etched on her face, but I didn't care. I had never felt more alone. The life I had imagined was gone, and all I could do was wonder how I would ever pick up the pieces. The days that followed Fraser's abandonment blurred into a haze of grief and determination. I stumbled through the motions of life, a ghost in my own skin. The wedding dress, still hanging in my closet, was a painful reminder of dreams turned to dust. But I had no time to wallow. I was about to become a mother. When I first discovered I was pregnant, shock coursed through me. I was terrified, unprepared to raise twins alone. But as the nausea subsided, resolve took its place. I would not allow Fraser's cowardice to define my future. I needed to build a life for my children, one that was filled with love, not shadows. As the sun rose on my new reality, I found myself in a cramped one-bedroom apartment. The peeling paint and flickering lights felt like a reflection of my shattered dreams. With each job I took on, waitressing at the local diner, cleaning houses, and babysitting, my body ached but my spirit ignited with purpose. One evening, as I wiped down the counter at the diner, the door chimed, and in walked Claire. "How are you holding up?" she asked, concern etched across her face. "Busy," I replied, forcing a smile. "But I'm managing. I'll make it work." She looked skeptical. "You can't do it all alone, Selena. Have you thought about reaching out to Fraser?" The name hit me like a slap. He made his choice, Claire. I won't chase after someone who doesn't want to be a father. I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. "I just think—" "No," I'd interrupted, shaking my head. "I need to focus on myself and the babies." But as the weeks passed, anxiety crept in. What if I wasn't enough? It was during one of those sleepless nights that the realization hit me. I had to prepare for the worst. I decided to find a lawyer, a step that terrified me but also empowered me. I needed to protect my future and my children's. At the law office, a polished woman named Jenna welcomed me. "You want to establish custody, I take it?" she asked, her eyes sharp as she studied me. "Yes," I replied, my voice steady. "Fraser might want to come back into the picture. I need to know my rights." "Smart choice," she said, scribbling notes. "But be prepared. He's a wealthy man. He'll fight hard." My stomach twisted at the thought. I had seen how determined Fraser could be, and the idea of a courtroom battle sent a shiver down my spine. But I couldn't let fear control me. My children deserved a mother who fought for them. Returning home, I found solace in my small sanctuary. I placed my hands on my belly, feeling the gentle flutter of life within me. "You're going to be okay," I whispered, though uncertainty loomed over me like dark clouds. As the days turned into months, the boys were born, 2 beautiful boys with Fraser's striking blue eyes. Holding them for the first time, the world faded away. They were my purpose, my light, and I vowed to protect them at all costs. But then, just as I started to find my footing, Fraser's name flashed across my phone screen one evening, sending a jolt of panic through me. I hesitated, glancing at the boys sleeping peacefully in their cribs. "What did he want?" Taking a deep breath, I answered, "Fraser." "Selena, I need to talk," he said, his voice cool but urgent. "Talk about what?" I demanded, feeling anger rise within me. "You left me. You chose your business over us." "I know, I'm sorry," he replied, an edge of desperation in his tone. "I've seen the boys. I want to be involved in their lives." The ground beneath me felt shaky, and I struggled to find my voice. "What you want doesn't matter. You don't get to come back and act like you care now. Please," he pressed, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of the man I once loved. "I want to make this right." But as the conversation continued, the truth was clear. Fraser's remorse felt more like a burden than a promise. I hung up, my heart pounding, knowing the battle had only just begun. With resolve, I took a moment to breathe, looking down at my boys. I would fight for them, for our future, no matter what Fraser might throw my way. They were my life, and I would build a new one, stronger, better, and filled with love. The day I walked into the courthouse, the weight of my decision pressed heavily on my chest. I clutched my folder filled with legal documents, my hands trembling as I approached the steps. The building loomed before me, a fortress of justice that felt more like a prison. Fraser had made his intentions clear. He wanted to fight for custody, and I was ready to defend my boys. Inside, the air was thick with tension and uncertainty. As I waited in the small, sterile courtroom, I caught sight of Fraser and his new fiancée, Annabelle, sitting together, a picture of confidence. Annabelle's perfectly manicured nails tapped impatiently on the table, her sharp gaze scanning the room like a hawk. "Isn't this a little much, Selena?" she called out, a smirk playing on her lips. "You really think you can take them from Fraser?" My heart raced, but I held my ground. "I'm not here to take anything. I'm here to protect my children." Fraser leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "You know I just want to be part of their lives, Selena. Why can't we work something out?" "Work something out?" I shot back, incredulous. "You left me at the altar. What makes you think you have any rights now?" As the judge entered, a hush fell over the room. The gavel struck, and I focused on the task at hand. With Jenna, my attorney, by my side, I felt a surge of determination. She presented evidence of my dedication to our children, the countless hours I spent caring for them, working to provide a stable home. But as the hearing progressed, I could see the wheels turning in Fraser's mind. "Your Honor," he began, his voice smooth and calculated, "I have a stable job. a home, and a fiancé who can help provide for them. Selena has no idea how to raise children on her own. Is that so? Jenna interjected, her tone sharp. You mean to tell the court that a man who abandoned his family can now dictate how they should be raised? Fraser's brow furrowed, but Annabelle shot him a glance, urging him to stay composed. My heart raced. They were a formidable team. Just when I thought I could regain control of the narrative, Fraser produced a surprise witness, his mother. I had long known she disapproved of me, but seeing her stand up there, ready to testify against me, felt like a stab to the heart. Selena is not fit to raise those boys, she declared, her voice dripping with disdain. She's a waitress. How can she provide for them? Mrs. Marshall, Jenna replied, her voice steady, can you tell us how often you've been involved in your grandsons' lives? Silence hung in the air as the truth settled. Fraser's mother had always kept her distance, and she hesitated, her facade cracking. I've been busy, she stammered. Busy, I echoed, a surge of defiance coursing through me. I've been there for my children every day while he abandoned us. The judge's gavel brought the courtroom to order again. The air felt electric, and I could sense that my words were resonating. As the session drew to a close, I caught Fraser's eye. There was a flicker of doubt there, a crack in his confident demeanor. Selena, he called, his voice softer now, can't we at least agree on visitation? I want to be in their lives. I hesitated, the memories of our past colliding with the present. You can't just waltz back in and expect everything to be fine. You have to earn that right, Fraser. He looked pained, and I felt a pang of sympathy. But the anger boiled just beneath the surface. I had fought too hard to let him off the hook. The next hearing was scheduled, and as I walked out of the courtroom, Jenna squeezed my shoulder. You did well. Stay strong. But doubt crept in as I thought of Annabelle and Fraser. They were determined to paint me as the villain in this story. The legal battle was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I glanced back at Fraser, who was now speaking softly to Annabelle. They were plotting, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The weeks dragged on like an eternity, each day blending into the next under the weight of uncertainty. The custody battle loomed over me like a storm cloud, dark and threatening. I kept my focus on my sons, Leo and Max, who seemed to sense the tension in the air. Their laughter, once a balm for my worries, now felt like an echo of innocence amid the chaos. One evening, as I prepared dinner, the phone rang, shattering the fragile calm. It was Jenna, my attorney. Selena, we have a new development, she said, urgency lacing her voice. What is it? I asked, gripping the counter for support. Fraser is willing to negotiate a shared custody agreement. He's starting to realize that fighting this battle in court isn't going to end well for him. My heart raced. Is that a good thing? It could be. But we need to approach it carefully. If he senses weakness, he might backtrack. Just then, I heard a soft knock at the door. My heart skipped. Jenna, I'll call you back, I murmured, panic rising as I opened the door. Standing there was Fraser, his hands stuffed in his pockets, a tentative look on his face. Selena, he began, the usual bravado stripped away, can we talk? I hesitated, the memories of his abandonment flooding my mind, but this could be an opportunity. Fine. But make it quick, I said, stepping aside to let him in. Look, I know I messed up, he started, his gaze falling to the floor. I want to be part of their lives and I'm willing to compromise. I can't lose them. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. Why now, Fraser? You left when I needed you most. I was scared, he admitted, looking up to meet my eyes. But seeing them after all this time, it hit me hard. I'm ready to step up. No more games. As I absorbed his words, doubt gnawed at me. Was this the man I once loved, or was it a clever facade? What about Annabelle? I challenged, crossing my arms defensively. Is she okay with this? She's not. But this is about the boys, not us. His tone was firm, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the man I used to know. What do you want? I pressed, searching his eyes for the truth. Joint custody. I want to be there for them, to share the responsibility, he stated, his voice steady. We can make this work, I promise. I felt a surge of hope, a dangerous emotion. What if you change your mind again? I can't risk my boys getting hurt. I won't, he insisted. I've changed. I swear. Just then, the boys burst into the room, their energy infectious. "Mom, look at what we made," Leo shouted, holding up a crumpled piece of paper decorated with scribbles. Fraser's expression softened as he looked at them. "Hey little man, what's that?" "It's a spaceship," Max chimed in, beaming with pride. "A spaceship, huh? Can it fly?" Fraser crouched down, eyes sparkling with genuine interest. Watching the interaction, my heart swelled. Maybe this could work. But the flicker of hope was quickly extinguished by the thought of Annabelle lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce at any moment. After the boys returned to their games, I turned back to Fraser. "If we do this, it needs to be on solid ground. No backtracking. You have to be committed." "I am," he affirmed, looking straight into my eyes. "For them." We spent the evening hashing out a tentative plan, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of optimism. Perhaps this was the turning point we both needed. But as the night deepened, unease settled in. Annabelle would not take this lying down. I could sense her disapproval lurking just beneath the surface. Later, as I tucked the boys into bed, their soft breathing brought me a sense of peace. I kissed their foreheads and whispered a promise to always protect them, even from their father. As I closed the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that the fragile truce we'd formed with Fraser was just the calm before the storm. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone. Could I trust Fraser? My heart yearned for a family, but my instincts screamed caution. In the battle of love and betrayal, only time would reveal the truth. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, illuminating the clutter of toys strewn across the living room floor. Leo and Max were busy constructing a fortress out of building blocks, their laughter a sweet melody that filled the space. I watched them, a smile tugging at my lips, but beneath the surface, unease churned. The custody agreement was still looming over us, and with Fraser's re-entry into our lives, I felt the tension tighten like a noose. My phone buzzed on the table, shattering the moment. It was a message from Jenna. "We need to discuss the next steps. Fraser's fiancée, Annabelle, is planning to fight hard for custody. Be ready." I clenched my jaw, the fear creeping in like a shadow. Annabelle had never been shy about her intentions, and I knew she saw my boys as pawns in a game. "Mommy, look," Max called, snapping me from my thoughts. "Our castle is almost done." "That's amazing, sweetie. Just a little more support on that side," I encouraged, trying to mask my anxiety. As I knelt to help, the doorbell rang, sending a jolt of dread through me. I exchanged a glance with Leo, who frowned, sensing my shift in mood. "Stay close, okay?" I whispered, rising to answer the door. My heart raced as I opened it, and there stood Annabelle, her smile too bright, too calculating. "Hi, Selena. I just wanted to drop off some paperwork regarding the custody arrangements," she said, her voice dripping with feigned sweetness. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, the protective instinct surging within me. "What do you want, Annabelle?" "Oh, come on. No need to be so defensive. We need to discuss this like adults." She pushed her way inside, her demeanor oozing confidence. "I care about Fraser and the boys. We just want what's best for them. By taking them from me?" I shot back, my voice trembling with anger. "You have no idea what it means to be their mother." Her laughter was sharp. "You think being a mother means you get to keep them all to yourself. Fraser wants to be involved, and I intend to support him. We'll make a wonderful family together." A cold chill ran down my spine. "A family? You mean a family with your agenda? I won't let that happen." Just then, Leo and Max wandered into the room, curiosity painted on their faces. "Mom, who's that?" Leo asked, eyeing Annabelle warily. "This is Annabelle, a friend of Dad's," I replied, forcing a smile. "Well, it's nice to meet you boys," Annabelle chirped, kneeling to their level. "I'm going to help your dad take care of you, okay?" "Why do you want to do that?" Max asked, his innocent eyes narrowing. "Because I care about you," she replied, her voice sweet but edged with something sharper. "Mommy takes care of us." Leo interjected, stepping protectively in front of his brother. "We don't need you." "Boys, it's okay," I said, my heart racing. I knelt down beside them. "Let's go play in the other room, all right? I need to talk to Annabelle." As they retreated, I turned back to Annabelle, rage simmering beneath the surface. "Stay away from my children. They don't need a new family when they already have one." She straightened up, her expression hardening. "You're making a big mistake, Selena. Fraser loves those boys. If you don't let him in, he might just choose to walk away again." The threat hung heavy in the air, igniting my resolve. "He won't. I won't let you manipulate him or my boys. Just remember, this isn't over," Annabelle said, turning on her heel. The sound of her heels clicking on the hardwood echoed ominously as she left. Once the door closed, I felt the weight of the world crash down on me. I sank onto the couch, the tears I had been holding back spilling over. I had fought so hard to build a life for Leo and Max, and now it felt as though it was slipping through my fingers. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Max asked, peeking his head around the corner, worry etched on his face. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just a grown-up thing," I said, forcing a smile through my tears. "But you're crying," he said, stepping closer. "I'm okay, really," I replied, wrapping my arms around him. "I just need to be strong for you both. You're my whole world." Leo came over, squeezing my arm. "We're here for you, Mommy, always." In that moment, their innocent love washed away some of my fear. I stood up, determination flooding my veins. "Okay, boys, let's finish that castle, together." As we piled the blocks higher, I knew I couldn't let Annabelle's threats shake me. I was their mother, and no matter what happened, I would fight for them. The strength of a mother is fierce, and I was ready for whatever came next. Weeks passed, the courtroom battle looming ever closer. With Jenna's guidance, I prepared myself mentally and emotionally. The day of the hearing arrived, tension hanging thick in the air. Fraser sat beside Annabelle, the tension between us palpable. "Your Honor, my client wishes to be part of his children's lives," Annabelle argued, her tone sharp. "He deserves the right to provide for them." "Fraser, are you really ready for this?" I asked, my voice steady, but my heart raced. "You've had years to consider what being a father means." Fraser shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting to Annabelle, who shot him a warning glare. "I want to be involved," he finally stated, his voice quieter than I expected. As the judge listened to both sides, I could feel the heaviness in my chest lift when she ruled in my favor. Given the boys' primary attachment to their mother and their current stability, custody will remain with Selena. Fraser will have visitation rights. Relief washed over me, and I could hardly believe it. The courtroom erupted in murmurs, and I glanced at Fraser. His face fell, disappointment etched deep. In the following days, Fraser stumbled upon Annabelle's phone left carelessly on the kitchen counter while visiting. Curiosity piqued, he couldn't resist. Messages scrolled across the screen, revealing affairs with 3 different men. Shock coursed through him as he read her deceitful words. Confronting her later, he demanded, "How could you do this to me?" Annabelle smirked, confidence slipping away. "You were never meant to be more than a placeholder." Fraser's anger flared, realizing the web of lies he had been entangled in. He walked away from her that day, leaving behind the life he had imagined with her. As for me, life settled into a new rhythm. Leo and Max thrived, their laughter filling our home with joy. I found strength in my role as their mother, the 3 of us a resilient unit against the world.